The transport ship landed on the white marble platform of the Valoran Imperial Palace. The doors opened with a soft hiss, and 12 mercenaries walked out in a single line. They wore black armor and carried weapons on their backs. Their leader was a man named Kang Do-yun. Do-yun was 42 years old. His face carried many scars from many battles. His eyes were dark and calm like deep water. He had fought in wars across the galaxy for 20 years. People called him the Ghost of Kepler because he always survived when others died. He never talked about his past. He never smiled. He simply did his job and moved on to the next one. The Valoran guards looked at the human mercenaries with disgust. The Valorans were tall and beautiful. Their skin was pale violet and their hair was silver or white. They believed they were the greatest species in the galaxy. To them, humans were like insects, useful sometimes but never equal. A Valoran officer walked toward Do-yun. He did not hide his hatred. "You are the human security team," the officer said. It was not a question. "You will protect the royal family during the diplomatic summit. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not look at the royals directly. You will stay in the shadows where you belong. Do you understand?" Do-yun nodded once. "Understood." The officer smiled coldly. "Good. At least you know your place." The mercenaries were taken to their quarters. The rooms were small and cold, located in the lowest part of the palace. The Valoran servants refused to bring them proper food. Do-yun's men complained quietly, but he raised his hand to silence them. "We are here for money," he said, "not respect. Do the job. Get paid. Leave." That night, there was a grand banquet in the main hall. Thousands of candles floated in the air. Musicians played soft music. Valoran nobles wore expensive clothes covered in jewels. The mercenaries stood along the walls like statues, watching everything. Do-yun stood near a pillar, his eyes moving slowly across the room. He watched the doors, the windows, the servants. He noticed which nobles carried hidden weapons. He counted the guards. This was what he did. This was what kept him alive. Then he saw her. Empress Seolhwa sat on a golden throne at the far end of the hall. She was beautiful in the Valoran way, with violet skin and silver hair that fell to her waist. She wore a white gown and a crown of floating crystals. But there was something different about her, something in her eyes that seemed almost human. Do-yun felt a strange feeling in his chest. He did not understand it. He pushed it away and continued watching the room. Beside the Empress sat a younger woman. Princess Lyrae was 19 years old. She had her mother's silver hair but sharper features. Her eyes were cold and proud. She looked at the world like it owed her everything. Lyrae noticed the human mercenaries standing along the walls. Her lip curled in disgust. "Mother," she said loudly, not caring who heard, "why are there humans in our palace? The smell is terrible." Several nobles laughed. The Empress said nothing. Her face remained calm, but her fingers tightened slightly on her throne. Lyrae stood up and walked toward the mercenaries. The nobles watched with amusement. They knew what was coming. The princess loved to play with humans like a cat plays with mice. She stopped in front of Do-yun. He was taller than her, but she looked at him like he was dirt beneath her feet. "You," she said. "Look at me." Do-yun kept his eyes forward, following the rules he was given. "I said, look at me, human." Slowly, he lowered his eyes to meet hers. His face showed nothing. No anger, no fear, no emotion at all. Lyrae studied his scars with mock curiosity. "What happened to your face? Did another human bite you? I hear your species does that, like animals." The nobles laughed again. Do-yun said nothing. Lyrae took a glass of wine from a passing servant. "You know what I find interesting about humans? You think you are so strong, so brave, but really you are just surviving, like rats. You spread across the galaxy because you breed fast and die fast. There is nothing special about you." She threw the wine in his face. The red liquid dripped down Do-yun's scarred cheeks. It stained his black armor. The room fell silent for a moment, then exploded in laughter. "Clean yourself up," Lyrae said with a smile. "You are making the palace dirty." She turned and walked back to her throne. The nobles clapped like she had performed a wonderful show. Do-yun did not move. He did not wipe the wine from his face. He simply stood there, still as stone, his eyes returning to their forward position. One of his men, a younger mercenary named Taiho, stepped closer. "Captain," he whispered angrily, "are we going to accept this? She cannot treat us like—" "Yes, she can," Doyun said quietly, "and we will accept it. But the job—" "Taiho, remember the job." Taiho clenched his fist but stepped back. The banquet continued for 3 more hours. During that time, several nobles came to mock the mercenaries. They threw food at them. They made jokes about human intelligence. They asked if humans still lived in caves on Earth. Doyun stood through all of it. His face never changed. His body never moved. The wine dried on his skin. He became a statue of patience. But inside, in a place he kept locked away, he remembered a different time. A time when he was young and happy. A time when a woman with kind eyes told him she loved him. A time before the Valorans took everything. Across the room, Empress Seowa watched the human mercenary. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed nothing. She had learned to hide her feelings perfectly over 20 years. She knew that face. She knew those scars. She knew the way he stood, the way he breathed, the way he kept his pain locked inside. It was him. After all these years, it was really him. Kang Do-yun, the man she had loved, the man she thought was dead, the father of her daughter, and her daughter had just thrown wine in his face. Selwa gripped her throne so hard her knuckles turned white. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run to him. She wanted to tell Lorray the truth, but she could not. Not yet. The truth would destroy everything. It would destroy Lorray. It would destroy the Empire. It would destroy them all. So she sat on her throne and smiled and pretended that her heart was not breaking into 1,000 pieces. The banquet ended. The nobles left. The mercenaries returned to their cold rooms. And in the darkness of her private chambers, the Empress, who was once a human woman named Park Seolwa, pressed her hand against her chest and cried for the first time in 20 years. 3 days passed. The diplomatic summit brought nobles and leaders from across the galaxy to the Valoran Palace. Every day there were meetings and speeches and ceremonies. Every night there were banquets and parties. And every moment, Princess Lyrae found new ways to make the human mercenaries suffer. She made them stand in the rain for hours while she watched from her window. She ordered them to carry heavy boxes from one side of the palace to the other, then back again, for no reason. She accidentally released her pet creatures near them, laughing when the beast bit and scratched. But her favorite target was always Doyun. There was something about him that made her angry. His silence, his calm, the way he looked at her without fear or hate. It was like nothing she did could touch him, and that made her want to hurt him more. "Why does he not react?" she asked her handmaiden one morning. "Other humans cry or beg or get angry, but this one, he just stands there, like he is better than me." "He is just a human, Your Highness," the handmaiden said. "He is a nothing." "Then why does he make me feel like I am nothing?" On the 4th night of the summit, the palace held its grandest event. Leaders from 30 different worlds gathered in the Crystal Hall to sign a peace agreement. Security was everywhere. Valoran guards stood at every door. The human mercenaries were placed in the back, far from anything important. Do-hyun did not mind. He preferred the shadows. From his position near a side door, he could see the entire room. Something felt wrong tonight. He could not explain it, but his instincts were screaming. 20 years of war had taught him to trust that feeling. He noticed small things: a servant who walked too straight, like a soldier; a noble whose eyes moved too quickly, checking positions; a guard whose weapon was slightly different from the others. Do-hyun spoke quietly into his communication device. "Taiho, east door," the servant with the silver tray. "I see him," Taiho replied. "You think he is a threat?" "I think we need to be ready." The ceremony began. The leaders gave their speeches. Everyone smiled and clapped. Princess Lyrae sat beside her mother, looking bored. She was playing with her communication device, not paying attention. Then the lights went out. Screams filled the darkness. Plasma bolts lit up the room in flashes of blue and green. Bodies fell. Glass shattered. The servant Do-hyun had noticed, threw off his disguise and raised a weapon toward the royal throne. "For freedom from Valoran tyranny," he shouted. "Death to the royal blood." More assassins appeared from hidden positions. There were at least 20 of them. They moved with military precision, cutting down guards and nobles alike. Do-Yun was already moving. He pulled his knife from his belt and ran toward the throne. A assassin tried to stop him. Do-Yun broke the man's arm and kept running. The Valoran guards were in chaos. They could not tell friend from enemy in the darkness. They shot at shadows and hit their own people. But Do-Hyun's eyes had adjusted. He could see the heat signatures of bodies. He could hear the different sounds of weapons. This was his world. This was what he was made for. He reached the throne just as 3 assassins cornered Princess Li Rei. The Empress had been pushed away by guards. Li Rei was alone, pressed against a pillar, her face white with fear. "Please," she whispered, "please do not hurt me." The assassins laughed. "The mighty princess," one of them said. "Not so proud now, are you? On your knees, Valoran. Beg like the humans you love to torture." Lyri fell to her knees. Tears ran down her violet cheeks. "I will do anything. Please." Too late for that. The assassin raised his weapon. Do-Hyun's knife went through the man's throat before he could fire. The second assassin turned, but Do-Hyun was already on him. He grabbed the man's weapon arm and twisted. Bones cracked. The assassin screamed. Do-Hyun used him as a shield when the third one fired. The plasma bolt hit the screaming assassin in the chest. Do-Hyun dropped the body and charged. The third assassin tried to aim, but Do-Hyun was too fast. He closed the distance in 2 seconds and drove his knife up through the man's chin into his brain. 3 assassins. 60 seconds. All dead. But there was one more. Do-Hyun sensed the movement behind him. He turned, but not fast enough. A 4th assassin, hidden in the shadows, fired his weapon. The plasma bolt hit Do-Hyun in the shoulder. It burned through his armor and into his flesh. The pain was incredible, but Do-Hyun had felt worse. He stayed on his feet and threw his knife. The blade spun through the air and buried itself in the assassin's eye. The man dropped without a sound. The lights came back on. The remaining assassins were dead or captured. Guards rushed to protect the royals. Medical teams appeared to help the wounded. Do-Hyun leaned against the pillar, blood pouring from his shoulder. His vision was getting blurry, but he had done his job. The princess was safe. Lyri stared at him from the ground where she still knelt. Her face was a mix of shock, confusion, and something else she could not name. This human, this vermin she had tormented for days, had just saved her life. He had taken a shot meant for her. He had killed 4 men to protect her. She opened her mouth to speak, to thank him, to apologize, but the words would not come. Pride and shame fought inside her. Finally, she stood up and brushed off her dress. Her face became cold again. "Do not think this changes anything, human," she said. Her voice was shaking, but she forced it to be steady. "You were just doing your job. That is what we pay you for." Do-Hyun looked at her. For one moment, she saw something in his eyes. Not anger, not hate. Something deeper, something sad. Then he nodded once and walked away, leaving a trail of blood on the white marble floor. That night, after the chaos had settled, Empress Seolhwa went to the medical bay. She ordered all the doctors and guards to leave. When the room was empty, she locked the door and walked to the bed where Do-Hyun lay. He was awake. The medical machines had stopped the bleeding and started healing the wound, but he was still weak. Seolhwa stood beside his bed. Her hands were shaking. Her carefully built mask was cracking. 20 years, she whispered. "It has been 20 years, Do-Hyun." He opened his eyes fully and looked at her. Really looked at her, past the violet skin and silver hair, past the royal clothes and floating crown. "Seolhwa," he said softly. A sob escaped her throat. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back the flood of emotions. "I thought you were dead," he said. "I searched for years. They told me you were dead." "I know," she said through her tears. "I know. I am sorry. I am so sorry." She reached out and touched his scarred face. Her fingers traced the lines that time and war had carved into his skin. "What did they do to you?" she asked. "What did they do to you?" he replied. They looked at each other in the dim light of the medical bay. 2 broken people from a broken past, and somewhere in the palace above them, their daughter slept without knowing that her entire world was about to change. In the quiet of the medical bay, with only machines humming softly, Two people who had lost each other 20 years ago finally spoke the truth. Silhua sat on the edge of Do-Yun's bed. She held his rough hand in her smooth violet one. It felt strange. Her skin had been changed, but his touch still felt the same, like coming home. Tell me everything, Do-Yun said. I need to know what happened. Silhua closed her eyes and let the memories come back. Memories she had buried deep to survive. Memories that still made her heart ache. Do you remember New Busan? She asked. Every day, he said. I remember every day we spent there. New Busan was a human colony on a small green planet in the outer systems. It was a peaceful place where farmers grew food and scientists did research. Do-Yun was a young soldier stationed there. Seolhwa was a brilliant geneticist working at the research center. They met at a market on a sunny afternoon. She was buying fruit. He was off duty, walking without purpose. Their eyes met across a crowd of people. He smiled. She smiled back. And that was the beginning. They fell in love slowly, then all at once. Do-Yun had never met anyone like her. She was smart and kind and laughed at his bad jokes. Seolhwa had never met anyone like him. He was brave and gentle and made her feel safe. They got married in a small ceremony by the ocean. Their friends said they were too young. Their families said they should wait. But they knew what they wanted. They wanted each other. A year later, Seolhwa discovered she was pregnant. They cried with happiness. They made plans. They chose names. They painted a room in their small house. For a few perfect months, everything was beautiful. Then the Valorans came. The attack happened at night. Valoran warships appeared in the sky without warning. They did not come to destroy the colony. They came to take things, resources, technology, people. The Valorans had heard about the genetic research on New Busan. They wanted the scientists who could manipulate DNA. Seolhwa was on their list. Do-Hyun fought. He fought harder than he had ever fought in his life, but there were too many of them. They beat him until he could not move. They left him bleeding in the ruins of their home, thinking he was dead. And they took Seolhwa. I screamed for you, Seolhwa said, her voice breaking. I screamed your name until my throat bled, but they took me away. They put me on a ship and I never saw our home again. She told him about the first years. The Valorans kept her in a laboratory. They forced her to work on their genetic projects. When she refused, they hurt her. When she tried to escape, they hurt her more. But they never killed her. She was too valuable. She found out she was still pregnant. The Valorans wanted to kill the baby. A human child was worthless to them, but Seolhwa begged. She made a deal. She would work harder. She would give them everything they wanted. Just let her keep her child. They agreed, but with one condition. The child had to look Valoran. Seolhwa had to use her own skills to change her baby's DNA, to make her daughter appear like one of them. I hated myself, Seolhwa said. I changed our daughter. I took away half of what she was, but it was the only way to keep her alive. Lyrae was born looking fully Valoran, violet skin, silver hair. No one could tell she was half human. Seolhwa created false genetic records. She built a perfect lie. As years passed, Seolhwa became important to the Empire. Her work made the Valorans stronger. They rewarded her. They trusted her. They changed her body to look like them. A sign of honor, they said. She hated it, but she accepted it. Then the old emperor noticed her. He was cruel and cold, but he saw power in her. He made her his empress. When he died 5 years later, Seolhwa became the ruler of the empire. Every day I thought about running, she said. Every day I thought about finding you. But I was scared. The empire was watching. If they found out the truth, they would kill Lyrae. They would kill me. I could not risk it. Do-Yun listened in silence. His face showed no judgment, only pain. I searched for you, he said when she finished. After I healed, I searched for years. I went to every Valoran world I could reach. I asked questions. I followed rumors. But you were gone, like you never existed. He told her about his own years. After losing her, he had nothing left. He became a mercenary because fighting was all he knew. He took the most dangerous jobs. He wanted to die. But somehow he always survived. They call me the ghost of Kepler because I should be dead, he said. I have died 100 times in my heart. But my body keeps going. He fought against Velorans whenever he could, not for revenge, just because fighting them felt right. Each battle was a way to keep searching. Each mission was a small hope that he might find her. But he never did, until now. And our daughter, Do-hyun said slowly, Lyrae, she does not know. No, Seolhwa said. She thinks she is pure Valoran. She thinks her father was the old emperor. I raised her in this world with their beliefs because I thought it would protect her. She hates humans. I know. Seolhwa's voice was full of shame. I tried to teach her differently, but the world was stronger. The empire filled her head with their ideas. She believes humans are inferior. She believes she is superior. And I could not tell her the truth without destroying her. Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. She threw wine in my face, he finally said. My own daughter. She called me vermin. I am sorry, I am so sorry. Do not apologize. You did what you had to do. You kept her alive. He squeezed her hand. But she needs to know, he said. She cannot live a lie forever. And this lie is hurting her, making her into someone cold and cruel. That is not who she is. That is not who our daughter should be. Seolhwa nodded slowly. She knew he was right. She had known for a long time. But she was afraid. There is a general, she said. His name is Torvan. He suspects me. He has been watching me for years, looking for proof that I am not truly Valoran. If the truth comes out, he will use it to destroy us all. Then we need to be careful, Do-hyun said. But we cannot wait forever. Lyrae deserves to know who she really is. Outside the medical bay, the palace was quiet. The assassination attempt had scared everyone. Security was doubled. Nobles whispered about conspiracies. And in her private chambers, Princess Lyrae lay awake staring at the ceiling. She could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human mercenary standing over the dead assassins. She saw him taking a shot meant for her. She saw the sadness in his eyes when she refused to thank him. Why did he save her? Why did he look at her that way? She did not understand, but she would soon. 1 week after the assassination attempt, Princess Lyrae could not stop thinking about the human mercenary. She watched him from windows. She asked servants about him. She noticed how her mother looked at him when she thought no one was watching. Something was wrong. Something was being hidden from her. Lyrae was not stupid. She had grown up in a palace full of lies and secrets. She knew when people were keeping things from her, and right now, her mother was keeping something big. It started with small things. The way her mother's voice changed when humans were mentioned. The way she protected human servants from punishment. The way she spent long hours in the medical bay after the attack, visiting the wounded mercenary. Then there were the bigger things. Old pictures that Lyrae had never seen, hidden in her mother's private room. Strange messages in a language Lyrae did not recognize, and the way her mother sometimes looked at her, with tears in her eyes like she was remembering something painful. One evening, Lyrae decided to get answers. She walked into her mother's private chambers without knocking. Empress Seolhwa was sitting at her desk, looking at something on a small screen. When she saw Lyrae, she quickly turned it off. Lyrae, she said, surprised. You should announce yourself before entering. What were you looking at? Nothing important. Royal documents. You are lying. Seolhwa's face became calm and controlled. That is a serious accusation, daughter. Lyrae walked closer. I have been watching you, mother. Ever since the attack, you have been acting strange. You spend time with that human mercenary. You cry at night when you think you are alone. You look at me like you are afraid of something. What are you hiding? I am hiding nothing. More lies. Lyrae's voice grew angry. Tell me the truth. Is there something between you and that human? Are you attracted to him? Is that why you act so strange? Seolhwa looked like she had been hit. Lyrae, you do not understand. Then make me understand. You are my mother. You are the empress. How can you have weakness for a human? It is disgusting. It is shameful. If General Torvan finds out, he will destroy you. He is already suspicious. He asks questions about your past. He tells the court that you are too soft on humans. Torvan is a dangerous man. Torvan is a loyal Valoran. Unlike you, it seems. Seolhwa stood up. Her eyes were full of pain. Lyrae, please, sit down. There is something I need to tell you, something I should have told you long ago. I do not want to sit. Tell me now. What is happening? Who is that mercenary to you? Seolwa took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking. After 20 years of hiding, 20 years of lying, the moment had finally come. She could not run anymore. His name is Kang Do-hyun, she said slowly, and he is not just any human. What does that mean? I knew him before I was Empress, before I was Valoran. I knew him when I was young, when I was... She stopped, struggling to find the words. When you were what? Seolwa looked into her daughter's eyes. When I was human. Lyrae laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. That is ridiculous. You are Valoran. You have always been Valoran. I have seen your genetic records. I have seen... The records are fake. I created them myself. Lyrae stopped laughing. Her mother's face was serious. Too serious. This was not a joke. What are you saying? Lyrae whispered. I am saying that I was born on a human colony called New Busan. My birth name was Park Seolwa. I was a geneticist. I was abducted by the Empire 22 years ago. They forced me to work for them. They changed my body to look Valoran. I rose through their ranks to survive. But underneath this skin, I am human. I have always been human. Lyrae took a step back. No. Yes. No, this is impossible. You are lying. You must be lying. I wish I was. Lyrae's mind was spinning. Her mother, human. It could not be true. It went against everything she knew, everything she believed. Humans were inferior. Humans were weak. Her mother was the most powerful woman in the galaxy. If you are human, Lyrae said, her voice shaking, then what am I? Seolwa's eyes filled with tears. You are my daughter, my beautiful, brave daughter. But what am I? Am I human too? You are half human. Seolwa's voice broke. I was pregnant when I was taken. I changed your DNA while you were still inside me. I made you look Valoran so they would not kill you. But half of you comes from me, from my human blood. Lyrae felt like the floor was disappearing beneath her feet. Half human. She was half human. The very thing she had spent her whole life hating. The very thing she called vermin and insects and inferior. She was one of them. And that mercenary, she said slowly, Kang Do-hyun, if you knew him before, if you were pregnant... Seolwa nodded, tears streaming down her violet cheeks. Darling, he is your father. The words hit Lyrae like a physical blow. She stumbled backward and grabbed a chair to keep from falling. The human she had tormented. The human she had thrown wine at. The human she had called worthless. The human who had taken a shot to save her life. Her father. No, Lyrae said. No, no, no. Lyrae, please, do not touch me, Lyrae screamed as her mother reached for her. Stay away from me. This is not real. This cannot be real. I am a princess. I am Valoran royalty. I am not. I cannot be. She looked at her hands, her violet hands, hands that held human blood. All her life, she had believed she was special, superior, better than others. She had looked down on humans with disgust. She had hurt them for fun. She had thought they deserved it because they were less than her. But she was one of them. Every cruel word she had spoken, every act of hatred, every moment of pride, it was all based on a lie. The wine, she whispered. I threw wine in his face. I called him vermin. He is my father, and I treated him like garbage. He does not blame you, Seolwa said. He knows you did not know. How can he not blame me? How can he even look at me? Because he is your father, and he loves you. He has loved you since before you were born, even though he never met you. Lyrae's legs gave out. She fell to her knees on the cold floor, her whole body shaking. Everything she was, everything she believed, had just been destroyed. I hate you, she said to her mother. I hate you for lying to me. I hate you for making me this way. Then she got up and ran. She ran through the palace halls, past confused guards and servants. She ran to her chambers and locked the door. She threw herself on her bed and screamed into her pillow until her throat was raw. Outside her door, Empress Seolwa sank to the floor and cried. And somewhere in the lower levels of the palace, Kang Do-yun sat alone in the dark, waiting for the storm he knew was coming. For 5 days, Princess Lyrae did not leave her room. Servants brought food to her door. She did not eat it. Handmaidens tried to enter. She screamed at them to leave. Her mother came every few hours, begging her to talk. Lyrae refused to answer. She lay in her bed, staring at nothing, playing the same memories over and over in her mind. The times she made human servants kneel for hours in the cold because one of them had looked at her wrong. The times she laughed when a human child fell in the street and cried. The times she told a group of nobles that humans should be bred like animals for labor, and they should kill the weak ones. And the times she threw wine in her father's face and called him vermin. Every cruel thing she had ever done came back to her now. Every hateful word. Every moment of superiority. She had thought she was better than humans. She had believed it with her whole heart, but she was human. Half of her blood was human. The face she hated so much was her own face. On the third day, she looked in the mirror. Really looked. Her skin was violet. Her hair was silver. But she searched for something else. Something human. Her eyes, they were dark, almost black. Not the light purple of pure Velorans. She had always thought it was a small genetic difference. Now she knew the truth. She had her father's eyes. She screamed and broke the mirror with her fist. Glass cut her hand. Violet blood dripped onto the floor. Violet blood with human DNA inside it. On the fourth day, she finally ate something. Not because she wanted to, but because her body was too weak to even cry anymore. On the fifth day, she made a decision. She needed to see him. She needed to face the man she had tortured, the man who was her father. She did not know what she would say. She did not know if she could say anything, but she needed to look into his eyes and understand. Lyrae left her room for the first time in days. She looked terrible. Her silver hair was messy. Her clothes were wrinkled. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. Servants stared as she walked past. She did not care. She asked a guard where the human mercenary was stationed. The guard looked surprised but told her. The mercenaries were on security patrol near the Eastern Garden. Lyrae walked through the palace toward the Eastern Garden. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were sweating. She had faced assassins with more calm than this. She found him standing alone near a stone wall. It was raining softly. He wore his black armor and stood perfectly still, watching the garden pass. Water dripped down his scarred face. He did not seem to notice or care. Lyrae stopped a few meters away. She did not know how to begin. Do-yun turned his head slightly. He saw her but did not react. His face remained calm and empty. "You should be inside, Your Highness," he said. His voice was flat, professional. "The rain is cold. You are standing in it. I am used to being cold." They stood in silence. The rain fell. Lyrae opened her mouth several times but could not find words. Finally, she forced herself to speak. "I know who you are." Do-yun nodded slowly. "I thought you might. My mother told me everything. About New Busan, about how she was taken, about how you searched for her, about me." Do-yun did not respond. He just kept watching the garden. "Why did you not tell me?" Lyrae demanded. "When I threw wine in your face, when I called you names, when I treated you like garbage. Why did you not say anything? What would I have said? Hello, I am your father? You would not have believed me. You would have had me killed. Maybe you deserved it for leaving us." Finally, emotion flickered in Do-hyun's eyes. Pain. Deep old pain. "I did not leave," he said quietly. "They took your mother while I was bleeding on the floor of our home. I searched for her for 5 years. I spent every coin I had. I followed every rumor across the galaxy. But she was gone. They told me she was dead. They showed me records that said she died during the attack." Lyrae felt something crack inside her chest. "You did not know she was alive?" "No, I did not know you existed. I thought I had lost everything." He paused. "I wish I had known. I would have done anything to find you both. Anything." The rain was falling harder now. Lyrae's expensive clothes were getting ruined. She did not care. "How can you not hate me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "After everything I did to you, after every cruel thing I said, how can you stand there and talk to me like I am not a monster?" Dohyun finally turned to face her fully. His scarred face was wet with rain, or maybe tears. She could not tell. "Because you are my daughter," he said, "and hatred is what they taught you, not who you are." Larry felt her legs go weak. She started to fall, but Dohyun moved quickly. He caught her arm and held her steady. It was the first time he had touched her, the first time in her entire life. His hand was rough and warm, strong, the hand of a man who had fought 1,000 battles. But his grip was gentle, careful, like he was holding something precious. "I do not deserve your kindness," Lee Ray whispered. "That is not for you to decide. But I hurt you. I hurt so many humans. I thought they were worthless. I thought I was better than them. And the whole time, I was one of them." "You are not less because you are human," Dohyun said. "You are not less because you made mistakes. You are young. You were raised in a world that taught you wrong things. The question is not what you were. The question is what you will become." Larry looked up at him, at her father. This man she had known for only a few days. This man who had every right to hate her but chose not to. "I do not know how to become anything else," she said. "I do not know who I am anymore." "Then we will figure it out together." He let go of her arm and stepped back. His face returned to its calm, professional expression. "But not here," he said. "Not now. There are ears everywhere in this palace. There is a general who wants your mother dead. We need to be careful." "Tor Van," Leary said. "Yes, he is watching. He suspects the truth. If he finds proof, he will move against your mother, against all of us." Leary wiped the rain from her face. Her mind was starting to clear. The shock was fading. In its place came something else, determination. "Then we need to be ready," she said. Dohyun looked at her with something like pride. "We will be," he said. "Go back inside, get dry, rest. The storm is coming, and we will need our strength." Lyrie nodded and turned to leave. Then she stopped and looked back. "Father," she said. The word felt strange on her tongue. Foreign, but also right. Dohyun's expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something warm. "Go," he said softly. "I will be here when you need me. I am not going anywhere. Not this time." Lyrie walked back into the palace. The rain washed away her tears before anyone could see them. General Torvain had waited 20 years for this moment. He was a tall Valoran with cold silver eyes and a face like carved stone. He had served the Empire his entire life. He had killed humans, conquered planets, and crushed rebellions. He believed in one thing above all else, Valoran purity. For years he had suspected Empress Seolwa. There was something wrong about her, something that did not fit, the way she protected human servants. The way she pushed for softer laws, the way she sometimes looked into the distance like she was remembering another life. He had searched for proof. He had sent spies. He had paid informants. And finally, after all these years, he had found what he needed. One of his agents had captured an old transmission from New Busan, a birth record, a marriage certificate, and a picture of a young human woman named Park Seowa standing next to a soldier named Kang Do-yun. The woman in the picture had the same eyes as the Empress. Torvan smiled when he saw the evidence, the smile of a predator who had finally caught his prey. He called an emergency session of the Imperial Court. Every noble in the palace was forced to attend. They gathered in the Great Hall, confused and worried. Emergency sessions were rare. They usually meant war or disaster. Empress Seolwa sat on her throne with Lire beside her. She looked calm, but her hands gripped the arms of her throne tightly. She could feel something bad coming. Doyun and his mercenaries stood along the walls watching. He had a bad feeling too. His hand rested near his weapon. General Torvan walked to the center of the hall. He wore his full military uniform covered in medals. His soldiers filled the room, far more than usual. "Citizens of the Valoran Empire," Torvan announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "I come before you today with disturbing news. News that threatens the very foundation of our great civilization." The nobles whispered nervously. "For 20 years we have been ruled by a liar, a deceiver, a creature that wears our skin but does not share our blood." Seolhwa's face went pale. I have proof, Torvan continued, that our so-called empress is not Valoran at all. She is human. The hall exploded with noise. Nobles shouted in disbelief. Some laughed. Others looked at the empress with new suspicion. Torvan raised a hand for silence. I know this is hard to believe, but the evidence is clear. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air. The old picture from New Busan, the birth records, DNA analysis showing traces of human genetic markers hidden beneath the Valoran modifications. Park Seolwa, Torvan said the name with disgust, born on a human colony, married to a human soldier, brought here as a prisoner and allowed to rise through lies and manipulation. She has made fools of us all. The nobles stared at their empress. Their eyes were full of shock and anger. This is treason, someone shouted. Execution, yelled another. Seolwa stood slowly. Her face was still calm, but her eyes showed acceptance. She had known this day might come. It is true, she said clearly, silencing the crowd. I was born human. I was taken against my will. I survived in the only way I could. I am not ashamed of what I am. The nobles erupted again. Guards moved toward the throne. Torvan smiled. Arrest her. Wait. A clear voice cut through the noise. Everyone turned to look at Princess Lyrae. She stepped forward, away from her mother's throne. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. If you arrest her, Lyrae said, you must arrest me too. Torvan frowned. Your Highness, you are not guilty of your mother's crimes. You are pure Valoran. The genetic records prove. The genetic records are false. Lyrae's voice did not shake. My mother created them to protect me. I am not pure Valoran. I am half human. The silence that followed was complete. Every person in the hall stopped breathing. Lyrae looked at the shocked faces around her. Nobles who had praised her, friends who had laughed with her, people who had respected her. Now they looked at her like she was a disease. My father is not the old emperor, she continued. My father is the human mercenary standing against that wall. Kang Do-hyun, the man I tormented and humiliated because I believed I was better than him. The man who saved my life despite everything I did to him. She turned to face Torvan directly. You call humans inferior. You say they are weak and worthless. But my father has survived more battles than any Valoran general. My mother built an empire from nothing. And she paused, her voice growing stronger. I have been cruel and proud and hateful. I have hurt innocent people because I thought they were beneath me. But I was wrong. Torvan's face twisted with rage. You are corrupted by their blood. You prove my point exactly. No, Larry said. I prove that your beliefs are lies. Being human means having courage to love despite hatred. It means protecting others despite danger. It means surviving despite everything the galaxy throws at you. If that is what humans are, then I am proud to be human. For a moment, no one moved. Then Torvan drew his weapon. Enough of this. Guards, arrest them both. The bloodline is tainted. The throne is invalid. I am taking command of the empire. His soldiers moved forward. Do-hyun moved faster. He was across the room before anyone could react. His knife found the first guard's throat. He grabbed the fallen guard's weapon and shot two more. Then he was fighting, moving, a blur of violence that cut through Torvan's soldiers like they were paper. The other mercenaries joined the fight. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they were the best in the galaxy. Each one was worth a dozen regular soldiers. The nobles fled, screaming. The hall became a battlefield. Torvan tried to reach Seolwa, but Lyrae stood in his way. She grabbed a fallen sword and pointed it at him. Move, child, Torvan growled. You do not know how to use that. Maybe not, Lyrae said, but I know how to stand my ground. Torvan swung at her. She blocked clumsily, but she held. He swung again. She stumbled but did not fall. She was buying time for her father. Do-hyun appeared behind Torvan like a ghost. His knife pressed against the general's throat. Drop the weapon, Do-hyun said quietly. Torvan froze. His sword clattered to the floor. The fighting stopped. The remaining soldiers saw their general captured. They looked at each other, uncertain. It is over, Seolwa said, her voice carrying through the hall. General Torvan attempted a coup. He failed. Those who surrender now will be shown mercy. One by one, the soldiers dropped their weapons. Do-yun kept his knife at Torvan's throat. What should I do with him? Seolhwa looked at the man who had tried to destroy her family. Then she looked at her daughter who stood bloody and exhausted but alive. Prison, she said. Let him live with his failure. Let him watch as the empire he wanted to protect learns the truth about humans. That will be his punishment. Guards took Torvan away. He screamed curses and threats, but no one listened anymore. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. The truth spread across the empire like fire. Within hours of Torvan's failed coup, everyone knew. The empress was human. The princess was half human. The royal bloodline that Valorans had worshipped for generations was not what they thought. Some people were angry. They gathered in the streets with signs and torches, demanding that the royal family be removed. Pure bloodline, they chanted. Valoran pride. But something unexpected happened. Other people gathered too. People who had been hiding their own secrets for years. A merchant who had hidden his human grandmother, a soldier whose mother had been a human servant, a noble family who had bought fake genetic records to hide their mixed ancestry. They came out of the shadows one by one, then in groups, then in crowds. The truth was that human blood had been part of the empire for generations. Seolhwa was not the only one who had hidden. She was just the most powerful. When the common people learned that their own families had human heritage, they stopped hating and started thinking. If humans were truly inferior, how had they survived for so long? How had they risen to positions of power? How had they built families and businesses and lives? Maybe, some began to say, humans were not so different after all. The days after the coup were difficult. Seolhwa had to make hard decisions. Some nobles who had supported Torvan tried to run. Others tried to start their own rebellions. Each threat had to be dealt with carefully. But slowly things began to settle. The empire did not fall. The sky did not collapse. Life continued. 1 month after Torvan's arrest, Empress Seolhwa made an announcement to the entire empire. She stood on the steps of the palace, dressed simply, without her crown or royal symbols. My name is Park Seolhwa, she said to the millions watching. I was born human. I became empress through circumstance and survival. For 20 years, I have led this empire, not because I wanted power, but because I wanted to protect my daughter and create a better world. She paused, looking out at the crowd. I am stepping down from the throne, not because I am ashamed of who I am, but because the empire deserves a leader who does not have to hide. The council will govern until a new system can be created, a system where Valorans and humans and all species can live as equals. The crowd was silent. Then slowly, something amazing happened. People began to clap, not everyone, but enough. Enough to show that change was possible. Seolhwa walked back into the palace. Her official reign was over, but her real life was just beginning. That evening, she met Do-yun and Lyrae in a private garden. It was the same garden where Lyrae had first spoken to her father in the rain. The same garden where their family had started to heal. Seolhwa had changed out of her royal clothes. She wore simple gray, the kind of clothes a human scientist might wear. Without her crown and makeup, she looked younger, more real. It is strange, she said, looking at her violet hands. I have worn this body for so long, but it still does not feel like mine. Does it matter? Do-hyun asked. You are still you. Am I? Sometimes I do not remember who I was before all this. Lyrae took her mother's hand. Then we will remember together. You can tell me about New Busan, about Earth, about everything I never knew. Seolhwa smiled. It was a real smile, not the practiced expression she had worn for 20 years. I would like that, she said. They talked for hours. Seolhwa told stories about her childhood on the human colony. She talked about the ocean and the markets, and the simple house where she and Do-hyun had lived. Do-hyun added his own memories. The day they met, their wedding, the small room they had prepared for the baby. Lyrae listened to everything. She was learning about a world she had never known, a world that was part of her blood. What will happen now? She asked when the stories finally ran out. Now we leave, Seolhwa said. The Empire does not need me anymore, and I do not want to stay where there are so many bad memories. Where will we go? Do-hyun and Seolhwa looked at each other. They had discussed this already. There is a place, Do-Yun said. A human colony on the edge of explored space. It is small and quiet and far from politics. I have saved enough money over the years. We could live there. Start over. Larry thought about this, leaving everything she knew, leaving the palace, the servants, the wealth, the power, starting fresh on a human colony as a half-human girl with no title or status. A year ago, the idea would have horrified her. Now, it felt like freedom. Let us go, she said. They left the next week. No grand announcements, no farewell ceremonies. They simply walked onto a transport ship and flew away from the planet that had been their prison and their home. The journey took several days. The colony was far. But for the first time in their lives, the three of them were together. A family. They talked. They argued. They laughed. They cried. They learned things about each other that 20 years of separation had hidden. Do-Yun learned that his daughter loved music, though she had never told anyone because music was considered a human thing. Seol-Hwa learned that Do-Hyun had kept a small picture of her hidden in his armor for 20 years, carried through every battle. Lirai learned that her parents still loved each other, despite everything, in a way that made her believe in things she had never believed in before. The colony was called New Harbor. It was a green world with tall mountains and clear rivers. The people there did not care about Valoran politics or royal bloodlines. They just wanted to live their lives in peace. Seol-Hwa and Do-Hyun bought a small house near the ocean. It was nothing like the palace. It was small and simple, with wooden walls and a garden outside. But when Seol-Hwa stood in the doorway and breathed the salty air, she cried with happiness. "It reminds me of New Busan," she whispered. Do-Hyun put his arm around her. "We can never get those years back, but we can make new ones." Lyra watched her parents hold each other. She felt something warm in her chest, something she had never felt before in the cold halls of the palace. She understood now why humans were strong. It was not because they could fight, though her father proved they could. It was not because they were smart, though her mother proved they were. It was because they could love, deeply, completely, despite pain and loss and time. Valorans had always thought emotions were weakness. Lyra had believed it too, but she knew better now. Emotions were not weakness. They were power. The power to forgive, the power to heal, the power to change. She walked down to the beach where Do-Hyun stood looking at the sunset. He did not turn, but he knew she was there. "I am sorry," she said, "for everything." He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "You have your mother's eyes, and apparently my stubbornness. We will be fine." Lyra stood beside her father and watched the sun sink into the ocean. The sky turned orange and pink and gold. Behind them, Seol-Hwa called from the house that dinner was ready. "Real food," she said. "Not palace food. Human food. The kind she used to make before everything changed." Do-Hyun smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible on his scarred face. But it was real. "Come on," he said to Lyra. "Let us not keep your mother waiting." They walked back to the house together, father and daughter, human and half-human. Two people who had found each other after a lifetime of being lost. The stars came out one by one above New Harbor. In the distance, the Valoran Empire continued without them. Wars would be fought. Peace would be made. History would move forward. But in a small house by the ocean, a family sat down to dinner together for the first time. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.